Christina, you are on the front lines in the fight for the unborn, and this is really a personal thing for you, isn't it? Tell us your story.
Yes, it is so personal. I found out in my 20s when I was in college that my mom had once scheduled to abort me. She was actually in the hospital with a white gown on, paid for the abortion, and a janitor saw her crying in the hallway and said, "Do you want to have this baby?" My mother said yes. And the janitor said, "God will give you the strength to have your child." My mom walked into the waiting room trying to get her stuff to leave, but the abortion doctor saw her. He called her into his office. There was blood on the floor from the last abortion. And she told him, "I've changed my mind. I want to keep my baby." He said, "No." He said, "You've already paid for this. You're just nervous. You're going to get through it." And when she insisted on leaving, he yelled at her and screamed, "Don't leave this room." She ran out, and she never had any intention of telling me about that whole experience. But I was in college and I was attending a church, and someone approached me and said, "Christina, God wants you to know something remarkable happened around the time of your birth." And so I asked my mom if something remarkable had happened. She didn't want to talk about it. She only said that she'd met an angel before I was born and didn't want to talk about it. But eventually she opened up and said, "Yes, before you were born, I was going to abort you, but I met a janitor and I ended up walking out." That whole story changed my life.
Yeah, rightly so. Wow, that's incredible. That gave me chills. What a wonderful testimony. And talk about a divine
Thank you.
appointment, for that
Yes.
janitor to be right there at the right time to talk to your mom. When you learned of your near miss with abortion, how did it influence your life moving forward?
I cried when I first found out. And honestly, I didn't know what to do with my story because I come from a very pro abortion state, the state of Connecticut. I'd never heard abortion talked about in church growing up. I never heard it talked about in my family. I wasn't aware of the larger pro life movement. So I just prayed, and God spoke to me and said, "Christina, I wanted you." And then he asked me a question, which was, "How do you think I feel about the others?" And I didn't know. I didn't know that there was thousands of babies that were dying every day from abortion. I didn't know the history of Planned Parenthood, but I researched it and I talked to women, and I decided that I would give my whole life to that cause. And I'm 40 now, and I started when I was in my early 20s. And ever since that moment, I have fought for the ending of abortion. I have fought to save lives. I have worked at pregnancy centers. I have worked in political ways. I work right now for Live Action as a news correspondent. When I found that story out, I never looked back.
That's awesome. Well, what results have you seen when you tell people who are pro-choice your story?
I've seen a lot of mixed results. Of course, some people, their hearts are hardened. And so they'll say things like, "Well, I'm glad your mom had a choice," which is a very strange thing to say because you're really saying, "You're glad my mom had the choice to kill me." That's a very strange thing to say to someone. But a lot of other times, I will find that people's hearts are softened, that they are moved by my story. They want to hear more. They are personally touched by it. I have seen babies saved. I have seen women choose life. I have seen women choose adoption through conversation with them. So I've seen a lot of different results, but mostly hopeful, mostly encouraging. I think people really respond well to personal stories.
What is your heart for women struggling with whether to have an abortion, or maybe they have had one and they regretted it?
I want women who are struggling with abortion to know that they are not alone, that there's hope, that there is help available. There are thousands of pregnancy resource centers all across the country. You can call them, call one in your community. They will offer you free resources, support, and prayer. There are Christian ministries and churches that are willing to be there for you. You should never feel that you have to have an abortion because society or the pressures from family or friends or even your partner are telling you that this is your only choice. Adoption is a beautiful option, and parenting is also a beautiful option with support and help. And if you've had an abortion and you're struggling and you're living with shame or guilt, I want you to know that the Lord is merciful, that He forgives, and that there are resources and support available to you as well. Whether you're a woman or a man, there are post-abortion healing groups and support groups, some run by pregnancy centers and some run by churches. There's books that you can read online, and there's different ministries that are dedicated, like Support After Abortion, to helping you receive the healing that you need.
Wonderfully said, Christina, and thank you so much for your courage in coming forward and sharing your story. I know that God is using it all around the world. He definitely had a plan when he sent that janitor to talk to your mom. That's wonderful. Thank you so much again. We appreciate
You're
your time.
welcome. Thank you. Thank you again for having me.
You bet. Blessings to you.